Sarah Paulson portraying Nurse Ratched with bone-chilling authority is probably the only thing that's right about the world today, and that's just an opinion I might helplessly circle back to as we go down this video. But let's kick off today's discussion first and take a look at 25 cool details about the Netflix original Ratched that might have missed your eye. We'll be going over plot points, Easter eggs, production details, and of course, the ending and how it sets things up for season 2, so please take note that there will be tons of spoilers ahead. The character of Mildred Ratched, as some of you might already know, originated from the iconic 1962 Ken Kesey novel called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Louise Fletcher played the cold-blooded nurse in the film adaptation of the book, which pitted her against Jack Nicholson as the falsely mental Randall McMurphy. Not only did Fletcher win an Oscar for the role, but her portrayal of the profoundly wicked and manipulative nurse gave the character a permanent place in pop culture. We'll be discussing some of those pop culture references later, but the important thing to know right now is that Ratched is supposed to be the prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. In fact, most of the criticism, which is not in favor of the Netflix series, comes from fans of the movie who are not too happy with the way Nurse Ratched has been characterized by the show. In the show, Nurse Bucket has it pretty bad for the director of Lucia State Hospital, Dr. Hanover. Her sadly unreciprocated gestures of love towards him include an ill-fated donut, but I'm more interested in the flowers that she brings to him one day. They come from a highly poisonous plant called Lily of the Valley, which is widely found in dense colonies across Europe and North America. These flowers are sweet-smelling and attractive, despite being highly toxic, and their use in the show was a covert nod to Mildred's own trajectory as she uses murder and manipulation to slowly gain control of the hospital. Among other things, Ratched is being appreciated for its stunning sets and vivid use of color. The show is a dark psychological thriller, but its bright and campy production design is very much a part of its striking appeal, and the hospital is a crucial setting, which was modeled after a real 5-star hotel to meet this end. Production designer Judy Becker also paid homage to Ryan Murphy's hometown of Cape Cod through the design of the dummy doors that are seen frequently as the characters walk up and down the hospital's hallways. Ratched has reoccurring themes of going against the authorities, or whatever else was considered quote-unquote normal back in 1947, like heterosexuality. And within this setup, Mildred is often referred to as the Angel of Mercy. As the show moves forward, we find that Mildred had a habit of consensually ending the suffering of badly wounded soldiers in the army by suffocating them to death. When she arrives at Lucia Hospital, Dolly claims that nurses are angels, and the statement brings an instant glow to Mildred's face. It becomes increasingly clear from here that Mildred herself thinks that she is the Angel of Mercy and uses this as a way to justify her crimes. And that's why the show even goes as far as naming the episode in which she helps 2 patients escape a horrifying treatment as Angel of Mercy. While it's not uncommon for nurses to be called angels, the negative meaning of the term Angel of Mercy refers to caregivers who frequently kill their patients out of compassion. In Mildred's case, this dark truth definitely holds more weight than her small acts of kindness. The story of Ratched begins with the church, and as it delves further into the depths of Mildred's character, the significance of the clergy seems to be lost on the show, but that's only because Ratched is not so much about the church as it is about institutions in general, and the notion of defying them. This struggle clearly plays out at Lucia State Hospital as Mildred becomes more and more unhinged, and she often symbolizes the evil contrasted against the hospital's similarities to the clergy. Sharon Stone is too damn good to be true as the exuberant Lenore Osgood in Ratched. Her snobbish air and over-the-top lifestyle is somehow delightful to watch, while her mojo with her pet monkey makes Ross look like a chump. But the lavish Osgood house is not all about decadence and actually holds a very clever Easter egg. When Mildred brings Dr. Hanover's head to Lenore, take a closer look at the background. There's a painting positioned perfectly between the 2 ladies, and it's supposed to be a depiction of the severed head of John the Baptist. The production team of Ratched deserves extra props for this cool reference, which portrays an act of vengeance very similar to what Lenore did with Dr. Hanover. Ratched may have departed from the church towards the hellish side of early psychiatry, but it doesn't stop having fun with its occasional biblical references. This one may not be as apparent as the painting of John the Baptist, but it adds to the show's charm nonetheless. I'm looking at one of the posters of Ratched, which prominently feature a set of ink blot wings behind Sarah Paulson. I think it's the show's way of signaling the way in which Mildred perceives herself and tries to negotiate her good and bad tendencies. Gwendolyn is one of the few characters in Ratched who is done figuring herself out and kinda just wants to live a wholesome life. The show, of course, responds to that by getting her shot, giving her cancer, and making her easy bait for Edmund to use against Mildred. But all that aside, Gwen brings a refreshing note of clarity to the scene, while the other characters are busy killing or getting killed. This is most apparent when Gwen lashes out at Mildred at one point, cursing herself for getting tangled up with her. Other than its literary meaning, this line seems like a direct reference to the red thread from the show's opening credits, as well as Gwen and Mildred's future together. Ratched is a prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but has yet to show us a version of Nurse Ratched that is as cold-blooded as the one in the movie. Besides creative differences, this lag is due to the way the show has set itself up and is only beginning to explore Mildred's madness. It's going to take a lot for the show to extinguish the humanity and compassion to carve the Nurse Ratched out of Mildred, and Gwen's death is almost certain to play a part in that going forward. Speaking of Gwen's death taking the show forward, it might not be wise to expect her to kick the bucket very soon after all. This is because producer Ryan Murphy apparently has a 4-season arc planned out for Ratched. Sarah Paulson has also gone on the record saying that the show is slated to catch up to the events of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest towards its end. It's not surprising that Ratched is expected to have a long run, as Season 1 sets up a lot of character arcs that will have to be resolved later, and Henry Osgood is extremely likely to return as the evil spawn who lost a tremendous amount of his inheritance to a monkey. After having his servant kill his own mother, Henry is left hanging dry in psychiatric care while Lenora's more deserving pet claims his fortunes. Fair enough, dig that for the monkey. This makes the perfect cocktail of tragedies for Season 2, as where else could the psychotic amputee end up besides Lucia State Hospital? Well, literally anywhere in the world if truth be told, but the entertainment world deserves to see a face-off between Henry Osgood and Betsy Bucket, and Ratched should deliver it. Ratched lends the qualities of a psychological thriller to more characters besides the titular role of Mildred Ratched. If you're observant, each and every character in the show grows deeper into their madness or defining traits as a person. For Nurse Bucket, it's a compassionate U-turn from her emotional dependence on Hanover and from partaking in horrifying medical procedures. Sophie Okonedo has a lot more of the show left to steal with her stunning portrayal of Charlotte Wells and her dissociative identity disorder, and in unfortunate cases such as Dr. Hanover, being in this character bubble meant his spiral into delusion, addiction, and eventual death. Regardless of how it plays out, I hope to see what happens to the characters portrayed stunningly by Amanda Plummer and Vincent D'Onofrio in the upcoming seasons. Charlotte's split personality problem exasperates after a very brief spell of recovery when she escapes with Dr. Hanover, accidentally killing him in the process. When she mysteriously appears later, she seems to be imitating Dr. Hanover. This reliably explains why she might unite with Edmund, since Dr. Hanover was convinced that he could cure him. What's interesting though is that one of Charlotte's personalities seems to be based on Jesse Owens, the iconic American athlete and Olympic gold medalist. When she's not Dr. Hanover, could this be the persona which lets her deceive herself into hanging out with the man who virtually tore her life apart? I guess we can only wait to find out. Over its 8-episode run, Season 1 of Ratched establishes that chickens are safe around Edmund, but people are not. By the time he runs off with Dolly, it's evident that Edmund's moral compass is not completely out of whack, and he probably won't harm any innocent people. And then the season finale slams us with a solid reality check by having Edmund murder 7 nurses to simply send Mildred a message. The real world witnessed a similar massacre when a man named Richard Speck killed 8 nurses in Chicago in 1966. Even if the timelines don't add up, this could be the show's way of hinting that Mildred herself could be Edmund's 8th and final nurse victim. Ratched's psychological horrors are located in several contentious and banned treatments, like hydrotherapies and lobotomies. In keeping with the source of these quote-unquote cures, the patients have disorders ranging from amnesia to homosexuality. One of these patients is played by Joseph Marcel, who is famous as Jeffrey from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He has numerous other TV stints to his name, and you might also have seen him in EastEnders or The Bold and the Beautiful. Ken Kesey's Nurse Ratched might be remembered most fondly for the Louise Fletcher movie, but she's been in and out of pop culture more than twice. The original novel created a huge sensation when it first arrived on America's changing psychological landscape and has been one of the most debated literary works in the country's recent history. This hasn't kept it from seeping into pop culture, and we are clearly not over the notion of an evil nurse killing people with virtual impunity. Netflix recently revealed that other depictions of this nurse are seen in Once Upon a Time, Futurama, and as a reimagined kitchen manager in the British sitcom Space. A highly orchestrated thriller like Ratched would barely leave much room for freestyling, but it looks like the actors did improvise one moment that we know of. There's an emotional scene between Mildred and Edmund towards the end of the show where he tells her about the barn animals. Finn Wittock revealed in an interview that he was forced to improvise that line when Sarah went off script and asked him to describe his animal friends. Ratched has exemplary visuals and cinematography, but the show would be incomplete without its haunting soundtrack. The striking background score imitates Bernard Herrmann's original composition for Cape Fear, which was also reworked by Elmer Bernstein for the film's 1991 remake. Bernard Herrmann is regarded as the master of the movie score, so it's no wonder that the Ratched soundtrack resonates with a distinctive familiarity. The sprawling seascapes and stunning visual compositions of Ratched have received their due credit, and the show is packed to the boot with color-based symbolism. While teal and red tones predominate in almost every frame, green is also used to layer the narrative with strong visual cues. Green typically symbolizes oppression, greed, and lust, so it appears prominently whenever Mildred experiences sexual acts. Her bluish-green uniform and car also stand out in contrast to the show's pearly backdrops to communicate the power in her stillness. Red, on the other hand, is used to foreshadow danger and gets notably played up when Dr. Hanover loses control of his actions. I know I've raved a lot about Ratched's production design, but it is well-deserved flattery. Another little detail that confirms my stand was revealed by Sarah Paulson and Judy Becker in an interview with Netflix. Paulson stated that the designer had gone above and beyond with the details by doing things like giving the floor artificial bumps and ripples, which were instantly picked up by the lighting. Becker explained that the concept is known as movement and can be amped up to give that realistic feel to the set's plasters. Another detail that is not exactly prominent in this version of Nurse Ratched is her hairstyle. Louise Fletcher's hair was designed to make her look like she had not evolved beyond a certain point in her life, adding to her soft creepiness. It was also frequently compared to the devil's horns, a connection that seems to be missing from Sarah Paulson's hairstyles. If you look at some of her low-angle shots though, especially when she carries out a lobotomy, Paulson's back-combed flicks do reflect a hint of Fletcher's biblical horns. Like most Netflix originals, Ratched gets crafty with its opening sequence. It features what looks like Mildred herself going against different backdrops until she's holding a red thread in her usual nurse's uniform, and does a wonderful job of portraying the underlying mystery of Nurse Ratched. As Danse Macabre plays in the background, Mildred's outfits evolve into a plain white dress and a red scarf. This itself is a nod to her evolving fear and distress in the show until she bounces back with more determination. Since the series takes an openly sympathetic look at Mildred's conniving character, the white dress can be taken as a nod to her bare and compassionate side. Besides its symbolism, Ratched's opening sequence foreshadows pretty much the whole arc of the first season. When Mildred arrives at Lucia State Hospital, she is focused on entering its ranks and liberating her brother Edmund. But as her elaborate plans unravel, Edmund does very little to contribute to its success. A series of unprecedented obstacles are thrown at her, and she navigates them with tight red lips, easing up only when Edmund, Huck, or Gwen tug at her heart. Mildred's closeted sexuality is also an important subplot, which is explored in the series, and these themes culminate to give Ratched its well-known non-conformist edge. The opening sequence especially tells us this story of Mildred's world turning upside down by actually tilting the frame at one point. The discussion on Ratched's title sequence is incomplete if we don't talk about its red strings. It is through the string that the shots are connected to one another, and it gives the sense of a criminal activity/investigation right off the bat. Another interpretation of the string is that it signals the characters' entangled lives. This idea of internal chaos is rooted in Greek mythology, wherein the string represents the fates that dictate a person's destiny. A more literal significance of Ratched's red strings plays out in the relationship between Mildred and Edmund. Mildred is strongly driven to protect Edmund from his death sentence because he saved them both from their abusive foster parents. But with every episode, it's evident that Edmund has a mind of his own that is mostly not in a sound condition. From plotting to get rid of Dr. Hanover to making arrangements to satisfy his sexual needs, Mildred stops at nothing to take care of Edmund. So him running off with Dolly was the final nail in the coffin of sisterly compassion for Mildred. So the next episode was promptly called Got No Strings, and showed Mildred opening up with Gwen and taking control of their life together. She knew Edmund was beyond saving and was finally ready to cut all of her ties to him. Ratched is said to have some iconic movie references, and this video would be incomplete if I didn't list them off, so here we go. Mildred wears a scarlet R on her jacket at the beginning of the show, which audiences are calling a tribute to the Scarlet Letter. Besides Cape Fear, the background score also imitates the menacing vibe of Psycho, which rings harder when Louise ends up joining Edmund and Charlotte. And who knows, she could very well end up with the psychotic and homicidal tendencies of Norman Bates in the upcoming seasons. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel if you enjoy our videos and press that bell icon to receive regular Screen Rant updates. See ya!